Hi, everyone. Jamie here from ProServe IT. I'm the CTO here. And, obviously there's been quite a lot that's been happening from a world events perspective recently. And, interestingly, I've been having lots of questions from business owners, from business leaders around, what does this mean for my business from a cybersecurity perspective? Are the events that are happening in Russia and or Ukraine, is that going to put my business at additional risk from, specifically from a cybersecurity perspective? So we were a bit hesitant to talk about this. We don't want it to be to sound like we're kind of trying to take advantage, so to speak, of a situation that is occurring. But we've actually gotten enough questions from folks that we felt it was important to kind of just maybe provide some guidance and talk through some of the things that I think to be mindful of as we look at this. So first and foremost, is there additional risk from a cyber perspective, with the conflict that's occurring between Russia and Ukraine? Uh, a lot of this stuff I don't necessarily have data. Some of this stuff, there's a lot of articles online with opinions from folks around, things that are occurring and trends that they're seeing. I will say from one thing, we have seen a decrease, a lot of decrease in, let's say, cyber activity since the events in Ukraine and Russia have occurred. Does that mean there's a direct correlation between, less risk of a cyber attack? Perhaps. My gut is telling me that while the events that are occurring in Ukraine are kind of at this top, that we will see a decrease in, let's say, targeted cyber attacks that are occurring from some of the cyber gangs that sit in Ukraine, or sorry, sit in Russia. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, I won't say that they're state sponsored, but I will say that the Russian government has, historically looked the other way, so to speak, with some of that criminal cyber activity that was occurring. And right now, I think all of their efforts are obviously on the conflict at hand. And I don't necessarily think that those teams have the same type of cyber backing. And I do think that they're kind of concentrating their efforts on it's terrible to say, but I think they're concentrating their efforts on Ukraine, which means that that there may not be as many attacks that are occurring right now. There has also been, a cyber gangs, and like Anonymous is one popular one that's kind of targeted Russia and begun hacking them, and there's kind of this whole cyber warfare that's going on in parallel with the physical, like the actual, war that's occurring in real time. Now, from a go forward perspective, what I do, worry will happen is that as this gets to whatever the conclusion is going to be from the events that are occurring there, I don't know, depending on what the outcome is, there might be that, cyber might be a way for some of the events in Russia to have, an outlet, or I don't want to say payback, but some way to kind of reach out to the Western world for supporting Ukraine, for supplying arms, for putting in economic sanctions. And I do worry that, that eventual payback for that will be an increase in cyber activity from the gangs that exist in Russia that are, not necessarily sponsored, but allowed to operate from the Russian government. And I think there'll be less checks and balances on those teams as we get to the tail end of this. So I do expect that there will be an increase in activity coming out of the crisis and the events that are happening in Ukraine. So what does that mean for you, and how can we best prepare? I think just like normal, there are a number of things that you as business leaders need to do to protect your business. We do have kind of a checklist of things that we feel are, your minimum standards of entry. Like if you do not meet this bar, you are at risk, and we do have that. And if you feel you might, be in that situation, you may actually, and so please reach out to us. It's traditional things like MFA, and that's probably the most important thing that you can do for your business is implement multi-factor authentication. But there are others, low-hanging fruit, that do pay dividends that we feel significantly do increase your security initiative. So kind of long story short, I think the guidance is that for the immediate near term, I don't think this poses an increased cyber risk, but I do think that we will see an elevated cyber activity occurring as we get to the tail end of the conflict that's occurring in Russia and Ukraine, and that we do need to be prepared for, state-sponsored attacks, and whether that's supply chain centric or targeted specific organizations. I think we'll have to see what the outcome is there. But I think, like usual, we need to do all the things that we can to prepare and protect our businesses as best as we can. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out, cto@proserveit.com. Would love to have a conversation. And until then, stay safe and be well.